Welcome to the Real Estate Masters Podcast, where we interview the top names in the real estate game. If you want to grow your real estate business, see more podcasts, or get free resources, go to www.remcommunity.com. The only podcast that allows you to directly connect with the guests and many of the highest level names in the real estate game.
You are in for a treat with our next guest. Do me a favor, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, and don't forget to go to remcommunity.com to connect with some of the highest level real estate professionals in the United States through our community and through our high level masterminds. Let's go.
All right, welcome to today's episode. We have Mr. Robert Nickell with us today. He is a virtual assistant expert. He manages over 600 virtual assistants, and he's got a real, true business, which we're going to dive into here in a little bit. I'm excited to talk to Robert because he's built a tremendous business that runs on its own and helps so many other real estate investors and companies with their virtual assistants. So welcome, Robert. How's it going there? Nice view of Dallas there in the background, looks like.
Tony, thanks for having me, man. You've had so many rock stars in a row. I'm seriously humbled and honored to be here. I appreciate you having me. We're big fans of the show. You've had so many amazing guests lined up. Just thankful that you're able to get me on, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So we connected it's probably 5 years ago at a mastermind, and you were doing some good things then, and you're scaling up tremendously right now. So tell us, you started about 2011 with hiring virtual assistants, and then you turned it into a full-blown business, and you're scaling pretty heavily right now. So tell us the evolution of that. So tell us why you got into hiring virtual assistants, what the benefits are, and I guess any tidbits that listeners can get with hiring a team virtually.
Yeah, I started buying and selling houses in 2008. That was both as an agent, as a realtor, but the point of being an agent and having my realtor's license was to find opportunity to wholesale and rehab. That's what I was really doing. And I've gotten the business all excited, and I was just like you saw with a lot of people now, they're making their Facebook posts and their memes about the rise and grind and 4 a.m. workouts to be able to fit it in. And that was me. I was working 80, 90 hours a week, pretty much right out of the gate. And I was closing 3 or 4 transactions a month. And I was about ready to go back to my corporate job, to be honest with you. Because for me, Tony, and I think it's like many people, real estate was supposed to be a vehicle. It was supposed to be a tool to an outcome, to a better life. And I don't mean to be cliche, but I just don't know very many people who are trying to be real estate professionals for the sake of real estate. I think we all want to be better husbands and brothers and sons and uncles. And I think we want to live the life that we want to live, right? I just got off the phone with one of our clients that's an amazing real estate investor here in Dallas. And she's coaching her daughter's volleyball team right now. And she's loving every bit of it. And she called me to just talk about how she was able to do that because of the team she had there. And to me, that's what it's all about. So my evolution was I was in real estate. I've done everything from running the Romex and installing sheetrock and taping and bedding and putting up like every single thing, to then getting some team to help, banging my head against the wall, really perfecting how to do it wrong there for a while before we put enough systems and processes in place to kind of get it right. About the time I met you in 2015, whatever that was, about 5 years ago, 2015, we had really kind of figured out the virtual staffing, the virtual team process. And real estate is such a linear business as a transactional business. We were able to define systems and processes. Like I said, we went through a lot of pain ourselves trying to implement for our own business. And since 2013, we've been doing virtual staffing, virtual teams, helping other people do it officially as a business. And that's now where I spend most of my time is helping people like, I just mentioned Jamie when she calls. It's our entire mission is enhance lives through better business. And that is the point of Rocket Station today.
Amazing. So, there's a lot of people that are in this or any business really, and they get sucked into the details. What you said probably resonates with a lot of business owners, 60 to 80 hour weeks, wake up early, work until you go to bed. And, there's been this big change in mindsets. I feel like finally that the less you work and the bigger businesses with the less you work, the more balanced you are and the more successful you are, which is amazing. So it sounds like that's what you're really trying to not push, but provide for entrepreneurs, especially real estate investors, is to get them to get out of the details of the business, right? And a lot of people think that to hire a team is super expensive, right? So tell us a little bit about that, because anytime, like I run a mastermind and I talk a lot about the virtual assistants that I have and how crucial it is for them to be a part of the business, and they're super affordable. So kind of talk a little bit about that and how that can how people can transform maybe a staff that maybe they're overpaying that's not producing to a staff that maybe is way more affordable, can add to their bottom line, and maybe provide better results for them.
Yeah, if you look at the real estate business, the number of things that have to get done on a daily basis is crazy just to close one deal, right? So yeah, you got to market and the phone's ringing, you have to respond and you have to follow up and you have to qualify, and how many of those people are actually worth spending time with, and you're putting your CMA packets together, and then you have to do your transaction coordination, which is the same process every single time, right? And how many times does your title company email you for the corporate docs that you already sent them in earlier? So it's just like your entire day, there's so much going on. But when you look at it, how many of those tasks are truly revenue generating tasks, or what's truly the highest and best use of your time? And for me personally, when I looked at my day, if you were to ask me, Tony, whenever I was in the middle of my real estate business and flipping houses was the core of my business, if you were to call me and say, "Hey, Rob, how was your day?" I would say it was great. It's a great day. But if you ask me what I did all day, I have a hard time telling you, because I'm just so busy and I had so much going on, and I'm answering the phone and I'm just kind of doing everything. I'm just kind of doing it all. And so to stop and think about what I'm actually doing, sometimes that's painful. And I think a lot of people are in that mode where you're just crushing it all day. You've got so much going on. There's so many different things to do. So that feeling that people have, I think, is super common. I think most of us have been there. But I think the real key and the real power is whenever you can take a step back, you can evaluate what you're doing. For me personally, highest and best use of time was meeting with sellers. I just needed to be sitting at the kitchen table. I needed to be negotiating deals and then working with some of our buyers to make that happen, right? So we were both rehabbing and doing wholesaling was the core function of my real estate business. And for the most part, if I wasn't meeting with sellers, we weren't getting contracts, and the business wasn't really moving. So there were so many things that had to get done. They're all important, but they weren't the highest and best use of my time. And for me, Tony, I wish I could just tell you that I started right away and had 80 to 90% of the business taken off my plate because it's all done on a phone or computer and something. But the truth is, it was a progression for me in my business. I started on the marketing and lead management side. I was driving from house to house trying to meet with sellers and trying to do deals, and the whole time I'm in the car, the phone's ringing and I'm trying to talk to leads and qualify them and fill out my lead sheets, but I couldn't because I'm driving. So the first thing that I did was hire somebody to get on the phones, and that's what opened my eyes, because Tony, they were terrible. The first hire I made, it was whenever Odesk and Elance were two separate companies, and I hired somebody just off a whim. They had experience, they sounded good, and they were terrible on the phones. But I still closed more deals than I was doing previously with somebody terrible on the phone.
Right,
and that was my big aha moment. To be totally candid with you, was way back in 2011, having somebody that could screw up some lead calls and I still do more transactions. I was like, wait a second, if I just trained them better and they were good, then they would change my whole business. That was my personal aha moment, is someone else could answer the phones, even if they weren't as good as me. I could do more deals, do more transactions, which was kind of the point of my business. That every time transactions were done, we got paid, right? So it went from just having somebody as a lead manager to then I taught them how to run comps, because 90% of running comps is the same process every single time. So we put a structure in there for running comps. Same thing for transaction coordination, then the disposition part of it. So the evolution of going from doing 60, 70 hours a week to now, whenever you said I'm managing several hundred team members, that's a very loose eye. I don't personally really manage any of them. We put structure in place to do that, but it all comes from the systems and processes that we've built from day one. So we force, and I know you know this, but we force everybody that we work with to go through a system and process development phase because we think that that's the foundation to success. Most people do it backwards. You feel some pain or you're getting busy, you got a lot going on. You just go hire somebody, you throw them in the fire, and then you're upset that they're not doing what you want them to do. And then managing them becomes really hard and you hate driving into the office. We just think that's backwards. If you work with somebody like us to build some systems and process, identify the most important needs in your business, now finding somebody to fill that role and be productive for you and be successful manager becomes a whole lot easier.
For sure. So what I recommend people do is to document what they do throughout a day or even throughout a week, if they can, go through that whole process, and take the things that are very high dollar productive and that they love to do, take, top 2 to 3 things that are the high level things that produce a lot of income, and then take the things that are, at the very bottom and start getting rid of those first. And it sounds like you had a dollar productive thing, which was answering phones, but it was sucking a lot of your time. Right. And I think there's this notion that people say, well, no one can do it better than I can. Right. And for me, it's like, and I've said this many times, and people, my audience may be sick of me hearing this, but I would say if somebody does it 50 to 75% as good as I do, I'm okay with that. Just like you said, you were able to close more deals, even though they sucked. Right. So how do you get a business owner, I guess, first of all, to sit down and document their systems that they've never done before, which I'm guessing most of them probably don't have those in place, and get them I don't want to say the finish line, but closer to the finish line of being mostly out of their business or getting rid of a lot of stuff in their business so they can take more time off or spend more time with their family or just work a reasonable 40-hour work week?
Totally. Most entrepreneurs, their success comes in a large part from their will, from their desire, from the ability to run through a wall every single day and run yourself right. I mean, that is, for most entrepreneurs, that it feels like that's where their success comes from. So to get people to slow down and take a bird's eye view of their business and evaluate what's happening, sometimes that is more emotionally painful just to do it than right. So I totally understand that concept of, hey, I'm too busy to stop and slow down. But I heard a great quote last week from one of my mentors, and he said, if you're always putting out fires, that means there's not enough structure and stability in your business for you to be success. And fires are not a badge of honor, they're an opportunity for progress. And so we really take that to heart. So the other example I like to use is anybody who has kids or has ever picked up kids from school, and you say, hey, how was your day? Tony, every single time it's good. Day was good. Okay, great. What'd you do today, Tony? What'd you do at school? Stuff, things. I was busy. It's the same thing for us as adults when we get to work. If I was to ask most of our client partners before they came to us, hey, what does your day look like? They're almost offended because they're so busy and they have so much going. What do you mean, what does my day look like? I had 15 calls. I ran over here, 5 listing appointments, and showed buyers these stuff. You can have all these things going on. So the thought of slowing down and what do you do all day is, like, most people, it's just too overwhelming to do that because it feels like you have too much to do. And so we like to start with those systems and process. So whether you do it yourself, which sometimes is really hard. Like I personally was not good at developing systems and processes. I had to find people that could help me, but I understood very quickly that if I wanted somebody to answer the phone, they had to know what to say. They had to have a sheet to fill out, and there had to be an idea of what the outcome was supposed to be. And so I could either sit there and bang my head against the wall and try to verbalize it to someone and train them personally, or if I put some structure in place, then all of a sudden team members could be successful. Writing scripts wasn't that big of a deal. So like you mentioned, most people, even the publicly traded companies that we work with, come to us with very few, if any, systems or processes or structure built, because most people will not take the time to slow down and do it. But if you're willing to work with somebody like us or work with your team and spend a little bit of time, it is absolutely the foundation to your success. Not only being able to get more done within the day-to-day, but also being able to leverage other people's time so that they can help you, right? I know you've got a great team, Tony, and you're a great leader and a great manager. And part of that comes from the structure that you provide your team so that they know what success and they know what the outcomes look like, right? So this system and process word, people get so tired or sick of hearing it, right? System, system, system. And because for most companies, that word system doesn't really have a whole lot of meaning. There's not a lot of tangible assets behind that. But we force every one of our client partners to go through a system and documentation process, because that is literally where everything else is built off of.
Right. So why would someone go to you and hire virtual assistants through you as opposed to hiring them through not necessarily another agency, but just finding them on their own, right? Because there's a lot of virtual assistants out there. They can train them themselves. They can go and do that whole thing. Why would they go through you?
Yeah, we are truly the done for you easy button in virtual staffing and virtual teams. So any phase of the business of real estate, whether it's lead management, marketing, transaction coordinating, CMA packets, running comps, working dispositions, we're truly experts in those processes. So you can do it yourself, you can recreate the will, you can attempt to become an expert at that, or you can just punch an easy button, it's done for you. So we have a couple things. We're screening over 4,000 resumes a month, and we're hiring less than 2% of those. So of the last 1,036 resumes that came through, we hired 26 people. So we're hiring the best of the best. Our recruiting team's amazing. We have a giant infrastructure around recruiting and training. So all the things that everybody wants, background checks, resume screening, profiling, we do all the check boxes to get the people in. And then they're on our platform for 6 to 8 weeks, training, learning, going through scripts. So you're never going to hire somebody for us as a lead manager who hasn't taken several hundred, if not 1,000 live calls working seller leads before you ever talk to us. If you need somebody to run comps or do your back end dispositions or become an executive assistant for you and your company, you can just fill that role. So we have a couple step process. First is we document all your systems and processes. That creates the roadmap to what success is going to look like. And then we're plug and play. We'll send you 3 or 4 or 5 candidates to interview, just like on this Zoom call. Our team facilitates the whole thing. And then we stay with you for the life of the account. So we're not only getting the best people, we have the best training. We've invested an insane amount of money in the infrastructure to make sure that that happens, and success is not only possible, but they're every single day. And then we stay with you for the life of the account. So definitely an option for people to go by themselves and try to just go figure it out. But if you want the done for you expert process that you can know that the what's happening is truly from experts, that's why people come to us.
Very cool. So you're right. Like, documenting stuff's painful because it's like, it's not dollar productive. It's not sexy. It's not fun. It takes a lot of focus, which a lot of us, business owners don't have, especially real estate investors. What do you think the return on time is? Like, if someone sits down for the time that they, let's call it a half a day or a day, and just documents all their processes and systems, what do you think the return on time is? Do you have any thought on, like,
you can't even really put a dollar value on it. It's priceless. And I don't mean to be cliche there, but it's the truth, because it is the source of your freedom. Leverage is not possible. Being able to do more than whatever you can pump out at 40 hours really is not possible without having structure. And once that structure is in place, now everything else falls in line. So for me, the biggest compliment I ever got was whenever we had an account in Memphis, and it snowed a couple years ago, and it never snows in Memphis. Mm-hmm. And I got a call at 8 o'clock in the morning because client is just overwhelmed with emotion because he didn't have one of his US people show up in the office that day, but his entire team was there crushing it with no management oversight from his office, because there was enough structure, systems, and process for his team to just crush it every day. And they didn't lose they didn't retreat momentum whatsoever, because their team knew exactly what they were doing every single day. So there's not a way to put a number on it. The biggest thing to me, Tony, is the emotional capacity you get back, the ability to work and focus on the most important things in your business by having clear outcomes and structure. You're not putting out fires all day. You're not having to train people, tell them what to do all day. You're not having to manage the individual tasks. It opens up your entire day in a way that's just not even possible without that structure there.
Right. So from a standpoint of who you work with and how long it takes them. I think I may have kind of gone into this a little bit, but how long it takes someone to go through that whole process to where they feel like they're more free. Is it usually within the first month they see like a lot of pressure taken off? Does it take several months? Us real estate investors want big returns in a small amount of time. So what tell us a little bit about
Yes,
that.
I think if you want to go through this process yourself, I don't really know how long that would take you. I think a little while. I think it takes some time to recruit, to trade, to get somebody
Well,
up to
your
speed.
process through you, I'm talking about specifically
For
through
us,
you.
within a couple days, right? So we will have your systems and processes documented within a week, and then your team member will be up and running at full capacity within that second week. So by your third week, you should have full production from your team through us. So I think on your own, it'll take you several months. Through us, it'll take you 3 weeks max to have a team member running at full capacity.
Wow. So from a standpoint of what the VAs do, in the real estate investing specifically, there's transaction coordination, there's inbound calling, there's outbound calling, there's marketing, there's analysis, there's disposition, there's all these roles. Is there anything that you don't train on? I mean, is it pretty much from A to Z, any position you can think of with real estate investing for the most part you train on?
We specifically do not do. So if you look at the real estate business, 80-90% of it's done online, and it's a transactional business. And I keep saying that, but it's the same steps have to happen in a linear fashion in order for deals to close, right? For transactions to happen. And you look at all of those steps, and you just mentioned almost every single one of them besides getting the contract is the only thing you didn't mention there. That's the only thing we don't really train. So we do all the administrative side, so the marketing, the lead management, the setting of all the appointments, doing the comps and CMA packets, doing the transaction coordination and disposition management, and then the back end administration piece, closing out reconciliation, the bookkeeping, and your monthly closeout statements. We do every bit of that. The only thing that we don't actively push and train our teams to do is close deals over the phone. And I've seen people do it. I know that there are people doing that. We have clients who are using our teams to do that. It's just the only thing we don't actively train our teams to do is close the deals over the phone. But all the other tasks that you mentioned are right within our wheelhouse.
Cool. Good stuff. So let's talk about the business part of it again. So you preach, or you, I guess, act what you preach. So you want real estate investors and company owners or companies that you work with to have more help, to have a team, to take more time off, to be able to run a business like a business. And you're doing it yourself. Like a lot of people who teach that aren't doing it themselves, it seems like. What is that secret? I mean, obviously VAs, right? I mean, you've got VAs, but
yeah, there's 2 steps there really for us. Well, I'll say 3 things really. So the first is we spend a lot of time on our system and structure. So as things happen, we're always evaluating. My brother came from the Air Force Academy as associate athletic director out there, and he laughs at something like we have after action reviews, AARs. We're constantly evaluating our systems and processes, but we're religious about having strict systems and processes within the organization, because what that does is it provides transparency. Everybody knows exactly what's happening, which creates alignment. So when everybody knows exactly what's happening, we can act in accordance and everybody's acting on the same page. And then all of a sudden, Tony, culture, this mysterious thing that everybody likes to talk about, this culture, like how do we build amazing culture? When you have a team in alignment with total transparency, culture is this amazing thing that happens as a result of that. So for us, we are very, very strict about systems and process documentation and following that. And then the second thing is putting the right people in place. So you mentioned I'm a business owner and I run my teams like a business owner. I have essentially 4 people that I manage and they run the entire business from there. So we've got very clear expectations and goals with those 4 team members. For me, it's my CFO, the finance team, the vice president of operations. It's my marketing director and my director of business development. Those are my 4 team leads that I communicate with on a daily basis. And they literally manage and run every other department. So they're based out of Dallas. They're well paid. They're well compensated. They're they're great, amazing team members that have really strong systems and processes to go execute. So I like people to know exactly where they stand. I don't think it's fun to guess. I don't think it's fun to be in an unknown state. So we provide a lot of clarity for our team members of what success is supposed to look like. And then I let them go get it. I let them go run and crush that, because my job is not to micromanage them in their day-to-day. My job is just to provide them the resources that they need to be successful. So for me personally, that's the way I run my business. I only pay attention to a few things. That's the people in the organization. So I work at the org chart, making sure that I have the right leadership teams in place. I make sure that the infrastructure is solid, so that's systems and processes and technology in order for the business to be able to run. And then I'm looking at our data, so just the back end reporting at all times to make sure that the business is making money and profitable and heading in the right direction. So outside of those three things, I don't do anything, because it's the team's responsibility to implement from there.
Right. Well, cool. Well, we've covered a lot in a short amount of time. We could dive probably really deep into, virtual assistants and things like that. But if anything, I just hope that this opened people's eyes to the ability to be able to hire virtual assistants that aren't in your office, to be able to take a lot of the administrative work off your plate, and even some of the sales stuff, because you guys obviously hire salespeople as well. Is there anything else that you would like for our listeners to kind of know, or that you'd like to kind of finish with, that would help them in their businesses? I think a lot of people that are listening to this are in real estate, but maybe just business owners in general. What else would you say that could help them kind of run their businesses more efficiently?
Yeah, for me, I'm not the person that recreates the wheel, right? I don't come up with just random brilliant ideas and go implement them. I learn from really smart people like you and all the guests that you have on your shows. And that's why I go to masterminds, and I'm always absorbing and learning as much as I can. And I think that is the key to always growing, right? And learning about leverage and learning how to scale. Every successful business that I've ever admired, every business like yours that I've ever tried to reach and try to build a business like that. You mentioned, running the business. That's been my goal. I've always been trying to learn and absorb from other people that can make that happen. So leverage to me and growth just comes from identifying what works. And I've found that every successful business has found a way to be successful, leveraging other people's time and managing people really well. And that management structure is always built upon well-defined systems and processes. So we're not doing anything that's totally crazy. Nothing is totally out in left field. It's just the implementation of the basics, the foundation, and that's what allows you to have success. So there's nothing super sexy about building teams and systems and processes. But if you want, my opinion is the dream is to go on vacation, come home, and there's more deals closed than when I left. And the only way to do that, especially in my real estate business, was to have strong systems and processes, and then a great team to be able to go crush it. So anybody who's interested in that, we're happy to talk more. I know we talked a lot about very high level things that, you're right, we could go in hours about several of these topics, but we're happy to work through. If anybody's curious how that applies to them personally, we're more than happy to spend some time, not trying to sell you on our teams, but just explaining what's possible and how things work.
Very cool. We'll put a link down in the show notes to Rocket Station. And you said something key there that I want to reiterate is that, leverage. And this is the reason that I do this podcast also, is to sharpen myself by being around some of the sharpest people that I know in the industry. So that was a good piece of advice, is surrounding yourself with the right people. And you don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's people that either have something that they've created that's similar to what you want, and then have businesses like yours, Robert, that can help you to get there. It's not about the what, it's about the who can help you get there. So I appreciate your time with us, Robert. Hopefully people reach out to you and check out your services, and look forward to connecting again soon.
Thanks again for having me on. It was great to see you, Tony.
My pleasure, man. We'll talk soon. Thanks for listening. Now go to www.remcommunity.com to connect with today's guest, see our high-level masterminds, and to get free resources. Don't forget to share this with a friend and leave us a 5-star review. We'll see you on the next episode.